Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. Well, yesterday we were speaking about efforts in Zamfara State, and we focused particularly on the aspect of the citizenry arming itself. Well, Zamfara State hasn't sort of limited it to there. It's going all out, as Governor Matawalle has said. Every avenue will be explored under his watch to bring the situation under control. Well, today we have the opportunity to speak with the Honorable Commissioner for Information in Zamfara State, Mr. Ibrahim Dosara. A fine morning to you, Honorable Dosara.
Good morning, my brother.
Thank you very much. Now, to talk about, well, your governor has explained that the scale of the problem is humongous, and therefore radical situations do require radical cure. But maybe we should talk first about, well, right now, the death penalty as a result of some executive orders that the governor has signed. The death penalty will now be visited on whoever is convicted of banditry, cattle rustling, cultism, kidnapping, and related offenses. Talk to me a bit about the all-out war of the Zamfara State government against all these outlaws.
Well, in the first place, I would like to talk of the effort made by His Excellency Governor Bello Matawalle Maradun ever since he became the governor of Zamfara State. Mm-hmm. When he came, he pretty understood that the fundamental problems of Zamfara people is insecurity. And he took it upon him to make sure that he do whatever it takes to deal with the situation to bring lasting solutions. When he came, he made so many consultations among the stakeholders on the way forward to deal with the situation, which it came to the conclusion that the best solution is to reconcile with the warring bandits. And he accepted that upon consultation with the presidency and other top security agencies, that dialogue process can be employed to deal with the situation, and he did. And honestly, there was an insight into it, because Zamfara was over 9 months without any security incident when the dialogue process was adopted. But unfortunately, somewhere along the line, conflict entrepreneurs, comprising those who supply them with weapons, those who supply them with foodstuff, those who supply them with alcohol and other dangerous drugs with which they take to commit the heinous activities upon communities, scuttled that success we had. And thereafter, the governor gave them an ultimatum of 6 months within which to embrace the peace process, or else he would confront them head on. And after the expiration of the 6-month period, he embarked upon another stringent measures to deal with them, where communications networks were shut down, markets were shut down, filling stations were shut down. All avenues through which the bandits were getting support and opportunities to attack people were blocked. And that effort helped seriously in reducing their capacity to attack people or kidnap them. But still, the conflict entrepreneurs played their role and made the activities of the bandits to resurface. Now, all efforts have been explored, and now it has come to the level where the government of Zamfara State concluded that the best thing is to invite the locals themselves to participate in the search for the lasting solution to the problem. And indeed, one of the best ways is to engage them in preparing their mind and preparing their psychology to know that the tackling of security in any community is not only the government function, but functions of all other stakeholders, including individuals in the state. So he said, now get ready. The government will help in ensuring that you acquire legitimate weapons with which to defend yourself against the bandits. And that is what we are. And the first process is to mobilize them and sensitize them, enlighten them. And this is the process we are in. And we have prepared forms which we will send to the 19 emirate councils to give to those people who wish to acquire legitimate weapons to defend themselves. And the locals, the emirate councils, the traditional rulers, and the local authorities there will work hand in hand to ensure that they screen people and get people who have no bad record in the past, those responsible people, and then give them the opportunity to acquire the legitimate weapons. Okay. It is after we will send these forms to the Commissioner of Police, who will do his own background check and to ensure that what the locals and the traditional rulers have done is right and correct before he now pass it to the IG, whose responsibility is to issue license to people wishing to obtain legitimate weapons upon the approval of Mr. President. Okay. We know there is an existing ban on the acquisition of these legitimate weapons because of the fear of proliferation of weapons in Nigeria. We quite agree with that and we respect that. But we will go ahead to plead with Mr. President to see the problem of Zamfara as a very serious problem that needs his more support. Okay. So that he can give approval to Mr. President to give license to Zamfara people wishing to acquire legitimate weapons with which to defend themselves.
Okay. Well, it does seem, Honorable Commissioner, from what you say, that Zamfara is sort of, the government is retracing its steps now, perhaps following criticism that the governor doesn't even have the authority to order the Commissioner of Police to issue licenses. And as you have indicated where you ended, that's only at the pleasure of the president, only the president. But as you said, you sort of said, well, you would plead with Mr. President to see reason, talking about the scale of the problem. Because there has been, you know, much as people understand what has pushed Zamfara to this extreme length, people still felt that you didn't do your homework properly. Now you're talking about it's at the instance of the president alone, and who, of course, it goes that whoever he delegates, even the Inspector General of Police, all of that is the president delegating his authority. Didn't you consult with the president to begin with to get his take on the matter before going out announcing that there's an initiative for farmers to acquire arms to be able to defend themselves?
Well, for the implementation of any policy, there is the need to do a kind of roadshow that is mobilize, sensitize, and enlighten people to prepare their minds on what they are expected to do. And that is why we start from the locals. We are mobilizing them. We are preparing their mind. We are making their psychology strong to feel that, yes, there is a need for them to participate in the search for the solution which the government has been doing all along. So that is why we start with the locals. When they are prepared, by the time Mr. President agrees to the request, then they've already started and time will not be wasted, then we swing into action.
What about, and here one is being theoretical, what if Mr. President should withhold his consent to such an idea? That's on the one hand. And then let me quickly ask that, even again being theoretical about it, if it does happen that people can be issued with licenses in Zamfara, the question of training, proper training, and the apprehension people have that to have armed in a community, a rural community, presents its own dangers. What about training and all of that?
Very good. In the first place, Mr. President will not hesitate to grant Zamfara people who have genuine cause to acquire legitimate arms to defend themselves. Mr. President himself was in Zamfara State twice to partake in the search for solution to the problems Zamfara State people are facing. It is almost over a decade now. Zamfara people are pushed to the wall. They are being killed. They are being maimed. They are being kidnapped. Thousands of children are being turned to orphans, and so many other atrocities befalling the community. And the government, being a responsible government, deemed it very necessary to take whatever it takes within the constitutional framework, within the legality of the Nigerian constitution, to ensure that we adopt measures to deal with the situation amicably and to ensure a lasting solution to the problem. So, and the other area you're talking about the training, we have started with the recruitment of 300 community protection guards in each of the 19 emirate councils we have. And this in connection with the military and other security outfits have given training to these people. And in his determination to ensure that this force, the Community Protection Guard force, is strong, His Excellency ordered recruitment of additional 200 people to make it 500 in each of the 19 emirate councils we have in the state. And they are all going to have the training on weaponry handling, respect for human rights laws, and also how to defend themselves. All this will be provided to this 300 and 200 additional community protection guards His Excellency ordered to be recruited. And the way they are trained is also going to be the same. The other citizens will be trained. And don't forget, if a criminal in the forest would have training on how to acquire and how to manage and hold weapons with which he commit atrocities by killing people, I don't see reason why a normal person who is running helter-skelter to earn a living cannot be given the opportunity to defend himself in terms of such atrocities. Okay.
Now, the proposal to arm citizens in Zamfara, if they're so willing, that grabs the headlines. But this week, a number of executive orders were signed by the governor, sort of furthering this whole campaign against banditry, about 3 or 4 of them. That's where I was talking about banditry, cattle rustling, cultism, kidnapping, now being good for the death penalty upon conviction. Those executive orders, is there any constitutional aspect or laws within Zamfara that will need to be amended to include the death penalty for some of these things?
Well, in the first place, His Excellency signed an executive order number 7 to provide for the establishment of the 4 committees. One of them is the State Security Standing Committee, whose responsibility is to ensure that whatever security measures are taken are in line with the provision of the Nigerian Constitution. It is also has the responsibility of advising government on what measures to take to tackle insecurity. And that committee is headed by a retired Deputy Inspector General of Police and other prominent personalities as members. Then the second community is the one which is charged with the responsibility of gathering intelligence about banditry activities in the state, those who are involved, including informants and other people aiding and abetting the the banditry activity in the state, and then pass it on to the third committee, which is a protection committee on banditry-related offenses, and that will prosecute those who are found culpable in banditry activities, informants, aiding and abetting, cultism, and they will prosecute those people found culpable. And the third committee is the one which is going to manage the security, the community protection guard. Like I mentioned, we have recruited 500 community protection guards in each of the 19 emirates. Now, the management of this force is going to be done by this committee, and it is headed by a retired commissioner of police with other prominent personalities, among whom are Nigerian Legion, comprising military and police, civil defense that are retired from service. So these are the four committees set up by the state government to ensure that this intention the government has in curtailing security, bringing lasting solution to the banditry activities in Zamfara State exists through the Executive Order number 7, like I said, which was signed by the Executive Governor. And then subsequently, His Excellency also signed into law another bill which provides for punishment for people committing banditry activities, people engaged in cultism, people engaged in aiding and abetting the criminals, and the people who are also committing other criminal activities that are terrorism related. And this law provides that anybody found culpable in committing banditry, cultism, informants that help the criminals to have information about communities will have a death sentence when they are found guilty. And those who are aiding and abetting the banditry activities in the state and other terrorism crimes will be jailed and sentenced to ranging from life imprisonment, 20 years, and 10 years, respectively. So these are the steps taken by the governor and his government to ensure that this act of banditry, this act of terrorism being committed by the criminals has come to an end in Zamfara State.
Indeed. Mr. Commissioner, you've spoken about not so much that you've spoken this morning, but it has been put out there, perhaps in earlier communication, and Mr. Governor himself, about the sheer scale of the problem and the plight of our innocent people, leading Zamfara to take such drastic measures. Perhaps the most drastic of them is the death penalty that is being spoken about now and is being put into law. As you know, globally, Mr. Commissioner, the death penalty is sort of fading out. In our country here, and then in Zamfara in particular, those sentiments don't sort of, they don't ring any sort of bell. They don't sort of strike any kind of chord about the unpopularity, the decrease of the death penalty around the world. That is not the Zamfara view.
You see, we are talking about saving lives of innocent people. somebody who is there trying to survive, maybe a farmer, maybe a petty trader, maybe anybody carrying out legitimate business, and for somebody to come and kill him, I don't think it's justifiable. No one's life is justifiable to be lost. But for people who are engaged in such atrocities, I don't think they have any right to life. If you take somebody's life, then you shouldn't have a right to your own life. So Zamfara state government is so much worried about the way hundreds of people are being killed in the state, and we cannot just for a particular person lose the lives of hundreds of people. So I don't think there is anything wrong in prosecuting somebody through sentence to life, to death, when he is committing atrocities of killing other people. I don't think it is wrong for such persons to be killed.
Okay, because as you also know, governors, at least in Nigeria, are not in an unseemly haste to actually sign the death warrant of those who indeed have already been found, through the process of law to be guilty and have been sentenced to death. You have people waiting on death row for so long. I don't want to belabor the point, but just this whole concept of judicial killings sort of fading out, but you've explained that because of the situation in Zamfara, that's not the way you're thinking right now. It's really very much an eye for an eye at this moment.
Yeah, you see, it is all about commitment and determination. It's quite agreed that several governors do not like to sign any death sentence to be committed. But, we are telling the world that Zamfara situation is a different one. Maybe somebody who killed someone, maybe by mistake, and a court case was entered and he was sentenced to death. Maybe some governors would not like to, but this one, we are in a kind of war-like situation. Zamfara state people are losing their lives, and the governor is now determined to kill whoever is engaged in killing people of Zamfara state. So
okay, one moment, please, Mr. Commissioner. Sorry, I beg your pardon to interrupt you, Mr. Commissioner. I just got a call. A call just came in. Let's listen to it. Good morning, Mr. George in Lagos.
Good morning, Uncle Yori, and good morning to the Honorable Commissioner.
Good morning, my brother.
Honorable Commissioner, I have no issue with the laws that your government has put in place, even the one regarding death penalty. There are already other laws about kidnapping in the country. That whoever kidnaps and the victim dies in the process will also, the penalty shall also be death. There are already laws in that regard. But the one that I am concerned about, I sympathize with your government. We've been reading stories how sometimes 200 people are killed in a day. These are not chicken, they are human beings. So it is understandable that you are taking drastic steps in order to address some of these issues. But my worry is about the aspect of asking individuals to take up arms. The repercussion of such things are also there. In the first place, those individuals are not trained on how to handle arms, and the arms that they are entitled to, even if license is granted to them, is not sufficient to defend themselves against these bandits who are always carrying sophisticated, very heavily sophisticated arms. I'm wondering if your state government cannot do what some other states are doing by themselves, establishing security outfits and arm those security outfits. You mentioned community guards. If I heard you well, sir, you said you have recruited 500 community guards. Why doesn't your state Assembly make a law for you to recruit more of such people and make it an outfit and arm them in such a way that the government can handle the control of how they use those arms and train them on how to use it, and will be able to ensure that they are not misused, just like what they are doing in the Southeast and in the Southwest.
See what the Commissioner wants to say about that. Thank you very much, Mr. George, for calling in. Honorable Commissioner, please go ahead.
Okay. In the first place, may I ask Mr. George if he knows how many elites in Nigeria are having these legitimate weapons in their possession? If millions of Nigerians can have access to legitimate weapons, why not a common man in the rural area who is battling for his life can be given the opportunity to have legitimate weapons to defend himself? You see, we have to be equal in our treatment. We have to be fair and just to the locals, because they don't have education or they don't have money, or we segregate against them. We have to treat them equal. And if I can draw your attention to the sentence in the oath of office people are taking, that I will do right to all manner of people. And that is what we want to do. So long other Nigerian elite have the right to own or to possess legitimate weapons, equally, the common man in Nigeria should have he should have the right to own legitimate weapons to defend themselves. So that is what we are saying. And like you said, we have already established that force, Community Protection Guard, but we feel it is not enough. We feel members of the communities should also be given opportunity to have their arms that are legitimate so that they defend themselves, because aggressive situation needs aggressive approach. And that is what we
Mr. Commissioner, I beg your pardon. I've got to intervene. Sorry, Mr. Commissioner, forgive me for intervening. But we have run out of time, and it's been a valuable time that we've had with you. Thank you very much for the insights that you have shared. There definitely is a lot more to be said about this, and I'm sure that should we invite you again, you'll be able to oblige us and take the conversation further. In the meantime, we, as Mr. George said, everybody sympathizes with the situation, especially in Zamfara, where hundreds are killed on a daily basis. Thank you very much, Mr. Commissioner. Honorable Ibrahim Dosara, Commissioner for Information in Zamfara State.
Thank you very much, my brother, and thank you, Nigerians, for having time to watch and listen to me.